When I first entered the block, I thought fights started because of insults, disrespect, or old grudges. That's what movies teach you. Someone says the wrong thing. Someone looks at someone the wrong way. Then fists fly. But the first real rule I learned in prison had nothing to do with words. It had to do with where you stand and how long you stand there. No one explains this rule to you. There is no sign on the wall. No guard pulls you aside to warn you. You are expected to feel it, to notice how people move, to notice how long they pause, to notice which spaces empty themselves when someone steps into them. If you don't notice, the lesson comes fast. The hallway outside the phones was always crowded. People lined up to call family, lawyers, or whoever was still picking up on the outside. The space was tight, bodies pressed close. Everyone wanted their turn. On my third day, I was waiting for a phone to open up. My name wasn't on the list yet, so I stood near the wall, trying not to be in anyone's way. 10 seconds, that's how long it took. I didn't know I was standing in someone else's space. Not a marked space, not a claimed seat, just a piece of floor that belonged to a pattern I couldn't see yet. I was tired, my feet hurt. I leaned back against the wall and waited. Someone brushed past me hard enough to make me stumble. "Move," he said. I moved half a step, thinking that was enough. It wasn't. Another second passed, then another. I could feel eyes on me, but I couldn't tell whose. The noise of the block didn't change, but the air did. It thickened, like the room had decided something about me and I hadn't been told yet. A man stepped into my space, close, too close. "You lost?" he asked. "I'm just waiting for the phone," I said. He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "You're waiting in the wrong place." "I moved," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He leaned in. "You stood there too long." I didn't understand what he meant. It was just a few seconds. "That's the rule," he said quietly. 10 seconds. After that, it's on you. I laughed once because I thought he was messing with me. That was a mistake. His smile disappeared. "You think I'm joking?" he said. Before I could answer, someone grabbed his arm from behind. "Not worth it," another voice said. "He's new." The man looked at me for a long moment, then stepped back. "Learn faster," he said, "or you won't be new for long." He walked away. The line for the phones moved forward like nothing had happened, but my hands were shaking. I hadn't been insulted. I hadn't threatened anyone. I had just stood in the wrong place for 10 seconds too long. That night, I asked my cellmate what that was about. "You stood in someone's lane," he said. "I moved when he told me to." "You moved late," he replied. "That's different." "Late by how much?" He looked at me like I was asking how close to a fire you can stand before you burn. "Doesn't matter. In here, time is permission. You take space for too long, people think you're claiming it." I wasn't claiming anything. "Doesn't matter what you meant," he said. "It matters what it looked like." The next day I paid attention, not just to what people said, but to where they stood. I noticed how men stopped at invisible lines in the hallway, how they leaned against certain walls but not others, how some spaces emptied when one person stepped into them. I noticed how long people paused before moving when someone brushed past them. It wasn't random. It was a language. And time was part of that language. 10 seconds meant you were testing something. 10 seconds meant you weren't lost. You were choosing. And choosing the wrong place, even quietly, was seen as a challenge. A few days later, I watched it happen to someone else. A new guy stood near the showers, blocking part of the walkway, not fully, just enough to slow people down. He didn't mean to. He was tying his shoe. His head was down. He wasn't paying attention. 10 seconds. A man bumped him hard. "Watch where you're standing," the man said. The new guy looked up, confused. "I'm just fixing my—" That was as far as he got. The man shoved him into the wall. Not a full fight, not yet, just enough to make the point. 2 others stepped in. Guards shouted.
The moment passed, but the message didn't. Later, I heard the new guy in his cell, breathing heavy, telling someone he didn't understand what he'd done wrong. "He stood too long," someone answered. "That's all it takes." I asked an older inmate about it during yard time.
"There's no 10-second rule," he said. "But people keep saying, it's not about 10 seconds, he cut in. "It's about hesitation. If you hesitate in the wrong place, people think you're thinking about taking it, and thinking about taking something in here is the same as trying to take it." "That's insane," I said. He nodded. "That's prison." Over time, I learned that fights don't start because of anger. They start because of interpretation, because someone decides what your movement means, because someone reads your pause as disrespect, because you didn't move fast enough, or you moved too slow, or you didn't move at all. One evening, I was walking back from the phones when a man stepped into the hallway in front of me and stopped. He didn't block the whole path, just enough to make me slow down. I hesitated. Not because I wanted his space, because I didn't know which side to pass him on. I felt the clock start in my head. 1 second, 2. I stepped left. He stepped left too. I stepped right. He mirrored me. For a moment, we stood facing each other like idiots. People behind me started to stack up. "You're going to stand there?" he asked. "No," I said, and stepped back immediately. He watched me for a second, then moved aside. "Good choice," he said. That night I realized something. The rule isn't about 10 seconds. It's about showing that you don't want the space, that you're not claiming anything, that you're not testing anyone. The moment you hesitate too long, people decide you are. A week later, I finally asked someone who'd been inside for decades to explain it to me like I was stupid. He didn't smile. "You are stupid," he said. "We all were." "So explain it," I said. "In here," he told me, "space is respect. You take too much of it, people think you're taking respect, and nobody lets that go." "So what do I do?" "You move fast," he said, "or you don't move at all. Half moves get you hurt." "What about when someone steps into my space?" He looked at me for a long time. "Then you decide if you're willing to fight over that space, because that's what the other person is asking you." I've thought about all the times I'd hesitated, all the small pauses that felt harmless on the outside. In here, those pauses were questions. And every question had consequences. The closest I came to breaking the rule again was in the laundry room. It was crowded. People were tired. Someone dropped a bag of clothes in front of the machine I was waiting for. I stepped back to avoid it and ended up standing in the edge of someone else's space without realizing. I felt the stare before I saw it. "You got somewhere to be?" the man asked. "No," I said immediately, stepping away. He nodded once. The tension faded. The room went back to its noise. I hadn't done anything special. I just moved fast enough to show I wasn't claiming anything. That's the part no one tells you. Survival in prison isn't about being tough all the time. It's about reading rooms faster than the rooms read you. It's about understanding that even standing still can be seen as an action. Later, I asked my cellmate why people don't just explain these rules to newcomers. He laughed. "Because the rules change depending on who's watching, and because fear teaches faster than words." I didn't like that answer, but I couldn't argue with it. Every rule I learned by almost breaking it, or by watching someone else break it and pay for it. The 10-second rule isn't written anywhere. It's not official. Guards don't care about it, but it shapes how people move. It decides when a moment becomes a problem. It turns waiting into a risk, and it turns hesitation into a signal you didn't mean to send. If you stand in the wrong place for long enough, someone will decide what it means. And once they decide, it doesn't matter what you meant. It matters what they're willing to do about it. That's the part outsiders don't see. Fights in prison don't always come from rage.
Sometimes they come from silence, from standing still, from 10 seconds that felt harmless to you and looked like disrespect to someone else. And once you learn that, you start moving differently. You don't linger, you don't drift, you don't hesitate in doorways or hallways or near walls. You move with purpose, even when you don't have one. Because in here, not choosing fast enough is a choice, and every choice is watched. That's how a place without written rules teaches you exactly how to behave. Not through explanations, not through warnings, but through moments that last 10 seconds too long.